Hello everyone! Today we'll be doing a mod spotlight on the Forestry mod, but it's a really big mod. So I'm just going to be focusing really on the beekeeping side of it, which alone is already a big section of the mod and it's got a lot involved in it. So we're just going to jump right in. I've got my trusty scoop, I've got my trusty bealyzer, and I'm going to show you how to make them as well as various other things. So to start off, to make a scoop, you just need sticks in a Y position on the crafting table with a piece of wool on top, and that makes yourself a lovely little scoop. Now the scoop is necessary when it comes to getting the bees. As you can see over here, bees spawn in hives that spawn naturally depending on what biome you is. So for example, this is a meadows hive. As you can see here, spawns a meadows princess with some honeycomb. Sometimes honeycomb is dependent. But it will always spawn at least one princess. Sometimes it will spawn a drone or two, and very rarely it will spawn a valiant. Over here we have a marbled. Marbled spawn in more biomes than you'd think. They spawn as well in meadows, they spawn in marshy, they spawn in forest. They spawn in pretty much every biome, but the likes of the meadows spawn in a specific biome. So as well as the meadows princess, there is also the marshy princess, spawn in swamplands. The wintry princess spawns in winter biomes. The water princess spawns in rivers. The forest princess spawns in forests, of course, and the jungle tropical princess spawns in jungles. So we've got the basics, they're the most common bees available, and we're going to learn pretty much how to use everything that comes with them. So for example, bees make beeswax, bees make honey, bees make propolis, which is used for various different things. And to start off with that, we're going to create all the engines that is needed to make all the sections of beekeeping. So for that, to power all the engines, we need an actual proper engine that is run. So this is a biogas engine. It is created by 3 copper in the top row, glass in the middle. These are bronze gears. Oh, I actually think they're bronze on the top row, my apologies. Bronze in the top row, bronze gears, piston, and then another bronze gear, and that creates a biogas engine. There is also such things as an electrical engine and a peat-fired engine. The electrical engine is created exactly the same order, except instead of bronze, it is tin, and the peat-fired is copper instead of bronze. But we're going to be using the biogas engines. They are the cheapest to make and they're the cheapest to run. Electrical needs to involve build, craft stuff, and the peat fired involves the rest of the forestry mod, which we're not focusing on today. So that creates a biogas engine, which I already have some set up. For all the other components, you're going to need sturdy casing, and that's a simple create bronze in the shape of a chest, and that creates sturdy casing, and that is needed for all of the other objects. So we'll start off by creating a squeezer. Squeezer requires tin in a row, tin in another row, might be a column, that's a column, sturdy casing in the middle, and then glass on top and glass on the bottom, and that creates a squeezer. A squeezer produces all of the honey, it produces the seed oil. It's pretty much just used to squeeze everything into liquid form, which often is used as a fuel. So as well as the seed engine, we have the carpenter, which is created with bronze instead of tin, but the rest is pretty much in the same. You've got the casing and you've got the glass, top and bottom. Carpenter has a special little thing, which we'll show later, the Thermionic fabricator, that's a really big word. It's created a little differently. You have a chest in the bottom middle, you have glass surrounding the sturdy casing, and then you have bronze. No, that's not bronze, it's gold in the top corners and the bottom corners, and that creates the thermonic fabricator. Now the thermonic fabricator is used to make stained glass, which hopefully I will show you today, and it is also used to create all the electron tubes, which I believe is included in the rest of the forestry mod, but it is rarely used in the actual beekeeping itself, which I'll show you later, but I won't show you how to make them. You'll have to find that out yourself. The centrifuge is created using bronze bars on the sides, but other than that, it's exactly the same as the squeezer and the carpenter. And the final one would be the fermenter. Fermenter is surrounding the stay casing by glass and then using bronze gears in the corners. And I will show you what these are used for shortly. So as you can see, I got my little bee housing. I'm using the lovely stained glass shade of green. I'll be showing you how to make them. So let's get started. Okay, over here we have the squeezer. As you can see, you place honey drops in. You start off the engine. This engine is powered by milk and lava. The biogas engine needs a heat and then it needs a fuel. As for different biogas engines, I'm using different fuels. They each produce different kinds of energy and there's a variation to them. For example, water is the cheapest to get a hold of, but it's constant, which means it's constantly running out and it produces the least amount of energy. So that one's you got to replace often, but it's very easy to find. Milk, similar to water, it's constant, so you do have to replace it rather often, but it produces more energy, so it's faster. You got honey. Honey is produced from squeezing the honey drops, so you can't get it instantly, but it's not constant, and it provides a decent amount of energy, so it lasts a lot longer. You got seed oil, which is produced from the squeezer also, but instead of squeezing honey drops, you squeeze apples, and it takes a long time. So that lasts long as well. It's very similar to honey, but the best one would probably be the biomass fuel, which again isn't constant, so it lasts a long time and it's really quick. It produces a lot of energy for it. The biomass is created through the fermenter, which we will show you shortly. So for the squeezer, it's a case of filling the biogas engine, putting the honey drops in, which the honey drops is what you get from the honeycombs, which I'll show you shortly. Place the redstone torch on and then you let it do its thing, and the honey drops will slowly squeeze into actual honey. Every now and again there's a small chance it will create a propolis, which we'll show later on. So next we have the centrifuge, and this is what creates the actual honey. So you place a honeycomb in, fill up the biogas engine and let it run, and it will break down the honeycomb. It will break it down into various things depending on what actual type of comb it is. There are many different combs. Honeycombs are created through meadows and forest bees and marbled bees. But depending on what bee is in the actual apiary, depends on what comb you get. So for example, rocky bees create rocky combs. Parched combs come from modest bees because they're desert bees. And as you can see, it breaks it down and it breaks it down into a honey drop. It also, and of course, beeswax, which we'll show you later. They haven't got a lot of use as beeswax at the moment, but it does have some. There is small chances it can create propolis as well, and various other things such as silk, which I'll show you later what that is used for. So we'll leave them to run for now. We'll see how long. As you can see, the milk is slower, but it gets used more often. Okay, so over here we have the fermenter. Now the fermenter is what's used to make the actual biomass oil, and for that we need a biogas engine, of course. You need to power it completely up. You need some saplings or some other stuff that you can ferment down, and you need fertilizer to put there. And to make fertilizer you need sand, apatite and other sand. There are also other stuff you can put in here. You could put I believe other ingredients that are produced in the rest of the forestry mods, so I think peat and everything can be used there, but the apatite is the simplest one to get a hold of. So we put sand, apatite and sand, and that creates a lot of fertilizer, which lasts a long time. So if you put the fertilizer in there, and you've got to fill it up with water on this side, only water, it doesn't get filled up with anything else. You start it off and it should hopefully create biomass here. Now on these sides, these are the cans, so you place a can in. As you can see here, I've got some filled ones already. You place a can in and it takes the actual oil out of the engine itself and places it into a can for storage. So you can pretty much store as much as you need and move it around to the actual engines. So you can see that's slowly filling up a lot of biomass. It's going pretty quick because it's using seed oil. This is going pretty quick as well because it's using honey, and as you can see the milk's going pretty nicely too, and that's creating the actual honey that you can move over. The seed oil is a little differently because you can't move it over in cans, you have to use a pipette, which are very simple to create. It's just 2 sticks and a piece of wool. And the last one you create is the Thermionic fabricator. I will actually show you the carpentry in a minute that's used to actually create the apiaries. But the last one you use is the Thermionic fabricator. Now the Thermionic fabricator is what's used to create the electron tubes, and it's used to create the stained glass. And I'll show you how to make the stained glass at the moment. So of course you fill up another biogas engine, start that on. You're going to need a lot of engines, but they're not difficult to create. Also, by the way, the apatite is found randomly through mining, and it's found in large chunks, so it's not difficult to get a hold of. Now for the actual stained glass, you put some glass in here. Once it heats up to a certain level, it will melt the glass. Now to create, there we go, liquid glass, it's nicely melted, and you put a wax cast in here because you need a wax cast to create stained glass. You put a dye and some sort of propolis. It can be any kind. I'm using the original at the moment, and as you can see it creates stained glass. It continuously uses the liquid gas. It doesn't use the wax casting, it just brings down its durability, so you can create multiple glass from just a single wax casting. Now the wax casting is created using the beeswax. The beeswax creates both pipe waterproof, which means it's useful as an alternative to actual cacti, in case you know we're near a desert biome when it comes to creating waterproof pipes. Or if you put it in an H shape, it creates a wax casting, and that's what's used to create the stained glass for the Thermionic fabricator. So that's pretty much how you create stained glass. It looks pretty, you can put any sort of dye. It's just pretty much a cosmetic thing. So that's creating some lovely honey. That's creating some lovely honey drops and beeswax. The honey drops aren't like, you're not obviously going to get them. You're always going to get beeswax, but you're not obviously going to get everything else. It's just like a small, it's a chance. And of course the biomass is almost done. It barely used any fertiliser, but it's used a decent amount of the actual saplings themselves. Now we're going to start off by quickly setting time day. Now we're going to actually get onto the bees themselves. So I've got myself some lovely apiaries out here. I will show you quickly on how to make them. To make an apiary you actually need to make the carpentry first, because to make an apiary you need an impregnated casing, which is created with oak wood and seed oil. So you do need, as well as a carpenter, you need a squeezer, because you need to squeeze out some apples to get some seed oil. As you can see, it's already made a propolis. Out of 32 it's only made 1, so it's a very rare. To get some seed oil, and then you need an impregnated casing. So we're going to start that off, and that should hopefully make the impregnated casing. And then you surround that by wood, I believe. You surround it with, I don't know if I have any wood. Surround that with wood, and I think wood slabs it is on the top, so we're going to double check that. Wait for our impregnated casing. Just going to take a little while to, oh, we need some extra wood to actually make it. My apologies. You got to put wood in here, that's the actual recipe, and then you got to put the ingredients in here. As you can see, it slowly makes it. So you do need actually engines to start off by making the apiaries. If you're lucky and you spawn near a village, there is a chance that a beekeeping villager will have a couple apiaries which you can steal from them. And honestly, I do that all the time. As you can see, the water drains pretty fast compared to some of the other stuff. The milk actually seems to last quite a long time. Everything else, as you can see, it's only at half. It's a quarter, so yeah. Different fuels produce different types of energy, and they go at different speeds. The water is definitely the most inefficient one. And we have an impregnated casing. So you put the impregnated casing in the middle, surrounded by wood, and then wood slabs on the top, and that creates an apiary. the apiary is what you use to house the bees, it uses to breed the bees. So we're going to start off by using this one. This one I already put a tropical queen in. As you can see, it's in a hostile environment, which means it won't breed, it won't produce any honeycombs. It's pretty much useless at the moment. So it completely depends on what biome you're in as to what bees you can actually breed to start off with. Once you get onto the actual apiaries, you are a lot more open to what bees you can breed. So I fixed that. Ow. As you can see, with modest bees are pretty much desert bees. She's made a lovely parched back comb. Some modest drones, she's already died. You place them together, princess and a drone. You can mix and match the drones. That's what pretty much the whole thing about beekeeping is, to create new drones and new princesses by breeding different types together. So the modest bee I've fixed by, as you can see, I've got a forest now, and that was a modest before, so that's interesting. I put a modest in there and it's created a forest drone and a common drone. But I fixed that by surrounding it with cacti, because depending on what biome you're in, it depends on what's surrounding the actual apiary. As you can see, a lot of them are surrounded by flowers, but it depends on what bee. So for example, meadows and forests, they can pretty much do with flowers. Different bees are more picky. For example, there are nether bees, and the nether bees require nether wart. The marshy bees require mushrooms. As you can see, the modest bees require cacti. You pretty much find that all out through the bealyzer, which I'll show you how to make now. A bealyzer is created in the carpenter. It needs a little bit of water on the other side of it. So the carpenter, which I believe is this one, it needs some water here instead of seed oil. You put the actual recipe in. So this is the recipe. You need 2 tin, redstone, diamond, redstone, tin, and glass. And that creates the bealyzer. And the bealyzer pretty much lets you get any information on any bee. So you put a bee in. It does need some honey or honeydew as a pacifier, so I'm just putting some honeydew in. Honeydew is created randomly through breaking the honeycombs, and as you can see, it gets you completely different, all the information you can about the bee's species. Its meta bee has a short lifespan. Pollen is really slow. It needs flowers, and its fertility, it creates 2 drones. So for another one, for example, marbled honeydew. Again, flowers, short lifespan. Forest, I believe, needs flowers as well. Yep, so for something a little different, so let's get into my little bee chest. So these are all different kinds of bees. As the common ones you get from the hives. You got modest, water, so water will be an interesting one, because I don't see how you can actually surround it with water, could you? So let's surround it with it. It needs lily pads to work, which means it does need to be surrounded by water. So for example, modest needs to be surrounded by cacti, so you do have to put a lot of thought into how you place these apiaries. Now the second part of the apiaries is the alvearies. The alvearies are bigger, they're better, and they require less maintenance. To create the alvearies you need scented panelling. Now scented panelling is difficult to get a hold of, which is why this is very more endgame when it comes to beekeeping, because you need beeswax, pollen, royal jelly, which is only made from royal bees, which you have to get from breeding, and it needs to be created in a carpenter, and it needs honey, a decent amount of honey. Pollen you get randomly from breaking the honeycombs, and you need it in that recipe order, and that creates 1 scented panelling. You need 8 scented panelling and an impregnated casing to create 1 alveary. And you need 27 alvearies to create the actual main alveary. But once you create it, it requires a lot less maintenance. You can put pretty much any bee in there, and you can mess with the actual temperature. You can create an alveary fan and an alveary heater, so that makes it hot or cold. So you don't have to worry about what biome you're in, what bees. For example, this biome is hot and arid, it's the temperature. So you can put any bee you want in this and sort out with the alveary and with the fan and the heater, and that makes the beekeeping a lot simpler. So let's quickly show off, because I did spawn close to a village, lucky me. So you can see there's a lovely, unique, wooded villager. He's wearing yellow and he's chatting with someone. But this is a beekeeping villager. A lovely beekeeping villager. And you chat with him, you give him some wood, he gives you an apiary. That's also a cheaper way of getting an apiary if you don't want to make the actual carpentry itself. If you want to go straight into the actual beekeeping. You go outside, you heard he has a couple. He has some lovely frames which I created with sticks. And he has some queen bees that apparently he has no idea how to use it because the bees require flowers. So poor beekeeper, he doesn't really know how to do his job. But that's pretty much found in almost every village that you come across. You get one of them houses. So if you're looking to come across one early, you get 2 apiaries pretty early on. And I think I've covered the basis. Oh yes, the safety clothes. Now with the bees, depending as time goes on, they can sting you. They're not very nice bees. Sometimes they don't like you and you get poison from them, you get damage from them. The nether bees, I imagine, can set you on fire. So for safety clothes, you need the actual apiarist shirt, shoes. You need a beekeeper's outfit, which looks special. It looks very simply made. It actually looks pretty damn, slabs on my feet, pretty damn awesome. And that is created using a silk wisp and woven silk. Silk wisp is created from silky propolis, which again you get randomly from certain honeycombs. From certain honeycombs in the centrifuge. You get silky propolis, and that you use to create silk wisp, and then you put it in a carpenter to create woven silk. So you put it in a carpenter and that creates woven silk, and then you put woven silk in exactly the same pattern as normal clothings, and that creates an apiarist clothing. So I'll quickly show off how to make the helm. See, a little apiarist hat, and that pretty much protects you from from any harm while you're doing your beekeeping. There are a lot of species of bees you can get, and depending on what mods you have installed, it can go up to over 100 species. There are only 6 ones you can get from hives, so just imagine the amount of bees you get from actual breeding. So I think I've covered all of the basics when it comes to beekeeping. I hope you enjoyed this mod, and bye bye for now.